aucun prétexte, je ne veux avoir de réflexe malheureux. Il faut que tu m'expliques un peu mieux comment te dire adieu. Mon cœur de silex vite prend feu, ton cœur de pyrex résiste au feu. Je suis bien perplexe, je ne veux me résoudre aux adieux. Je sais bien qu'un ex-amour n'a pas de chance, ou si peu.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Hello, welcome to class 3 of Watercolor Wednesdays. That, of course, was last week's painting of the Autour de France. And I'm wondering how you all made out painting last week. I saw a few of you posting your versions of this beautiful drawing from our great friend Astrid, who was with us, special guest last week. You can find her at UrbanAnna20 on Instagram. And these are her drawings. They came in your kit, or they're in the free resource webpage that we have that you're all welcome to download. I know some people were saying they were having a hard time finding somewhere that would print on watercolor paper. I would recommend going to a local print shop, if you know what I mean, as opposed to a big box chain print shop, because they're much more willing to put your paper in their machines. So a few years running that we've been doing Watercolor Wednesdays, I've always brought our own loose stock of watercolor to my local print shop, and it was never a problem to get them to print it out. So that's what I would try if you're having trouble, as opposed to like a big box shop. And so anyway, hi, that little business out of the way. I see Nancy's joined us tonight, Donna. We've got Tammy from rainy Southern California. Hi, Tammy. Marie Agnes is joining us from Mont-Tremblant. Ça va, Marie Agnes and Charlotte and Suzanne. There was three of them. Suzanne, poor Hillary couldn't make it, joined us last weekend in the shop. They all came together, which was so nice to have homemade participants uniting and coming to visit. It's so great. Hello, Ghislaine. We've got people in from Humboldt, Texas, New Brunswick. Yay! On time this week. Hey, that's the beauty of Facebook. You can always go back and watch again. If you missed last week's class, everybody got an email who registered. Hi, Charlotte. Everybody got an email who registered with the links to the previous videos along with the resource page. So all of that's in your email if you've registered. So you don't have to go looking back in case you're looking for something. I'm going to dive right in. I'm going to say hello to, I've got Karen who's doing the cameras and my sister Sarah who is behind the scenes tonight. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Thanks so much for being here. She's going to read out your questions if I can't quite see them. So please, if you have any questions or comments or, you know, what have you, just put them in there. Just put them in there, and we will we'll get to them. So there's a couple different things we're gonna skate over tonight. Tonight we're going to work a little bit on some of the buildings again, but I also want to keep things moving. I've only half started the Biscuiteers building here, and I've only half started where it says the Deadstock, the pink building. We're going to work on a little bit of both, predominantly tonight, because I don't want to spend too much time going over the same things that we already learned last week about, you know, doing what I've done here, which is giving it a big whitewash tonight. No Amanda tonight. She worked all day in the shop, and I was lucky enough to have Sarah come and help me out with the live tonight so Amanda could have a well-deserved night off. So thank you to Amanda for all her hard work. So yeah, no Amanda tonight. Maybe she's watching from home. Sometimes her and her mom are watching. So if you are, hello. Oh, we've got Mary watching from Kingston. Hi, Mary. Thanks so much for tuning in. So if you'll remember from last week, Astrid really suggested, and we did it in the Tour de France building, which was to do that sort of or the big wash over your big areas, and then to go over top with much more of your detail. And, you know, in this particular painting. There is so much little detail. Like look at how like there's plants and there's boxes and fruit and well, those are probably cookies in this shop. Probably not fruit. They're probably like macaroons and delicious things like that. So there's lots of itty bitty work to do on this particular one, but it's not hard. It's going to build off your skills from last week. So I'm going to leave all the little detail work, and we're going to get to just the brickwork here tonight, because that is a little bit different. And why don't we just, I'm going to give you a little overview video of the Biscuiteer shop, and then we're going to get to painting it ourselves. So let's take a look.
Somewhere in the middle, I think I lied a little. I said if we took it there, I wasn't gonna change, but that went out the window. Yeah, put my mind at ease, trickled up my spine. Oh, you look so pretty, please. Every single night, I need your hands on me. When your kisses climb, oh, you give me sweet relief. Make me feel so pretty. Would you help me out, please?
Looks easy when you see it like that. And it's not too bad. We're really building on our skills here. And, you know, we're lucky that we don't have to draw these images ourselves, that we can kind of just, you know, cheat a little and play color in the lines. And what we're really going to concentrate on is, you saw all the little detailed work, and that's just a matter of like getting your little small brush into all of those little crevices. But what I want to concentrate on is making sure that we're able to do the bricks before we move on to doing some free flowing, free form florals tonight, because I know everybody really also wants to build on their ability to use their brushes and draw and paint themselves, not just color in. So let's work on the bricks for a little while. And then we're going to move on to some florals. And when I'm talking florals, I mean things like this. You'll be able to do it. I'm pulling my stack here that I've, you know, been working on for years. I just keep adding to it. I should frame something or give it away or something like that. Look, but nothing left unpracticed. Practice and then do. This one was for my daughter Violet. Just put a V in the middle. This one was a floral that actually got published in a paper pad that I made for Spectrum Noir that went on HSN. These are all the originals from that original paper pad. Actually, I think it's down here. Is it? I thought I pulled them. Let's see. So yeah. So a couple years ago, I had this on HSN, and it's all these drawings, and it's so that people could make cards. See, there's that one that I just said. There's the original. And it got published in this paper pad so that people could make them into card fronts or do their own brush lettering in the middle. Yeah, so I'm going to show you how to do some of these kinds of designs yourself tonight, because everything in your kit, or everything I'm sure you've got at home, you can be doing these kinds of things pretty easily. And yeah, you don't need to be a real artist, let's say. Anybody can be an artist. Not to diminish being an artist. People are brilliant artists. But all that to say, you don't have to have a degree in fine art to have some success, especially with watercolor. Jacqueline's asking, when does your next class session start? Do you mean the next Watercolor Wednesdays, or the next time we're doing an event? Just be a little more specific, and I'll try to answer your question. So we will get to doing some of these beautiful florals tonight, because that's probably where we'll end next week. And for anybody who's wondering why we're even on this week, because the website said that there was a break, it's because in Canada it's March break, or at least in Ontario it's March break, and the kids are off school. And I guess when I was planning this, in my mind, I was going to be on some sort of awesome vacation this week, and I wouldn't be able to do this. Well, here we are. I just came in like usual, as though it was not March break. And someone said, I think it says on the website we're supposed to skip this week. And I was like, oh yeah, well, we're doing it because I already sent out the email. So if you are tuning in next week thinking that it's this week, sorry, you're not watching live, but don't worry, you can play this back whenever. Someone's saying next event.
Well, Jacqueline answered saying next Watercolor Wednesday, where
Oh,
you
I
can
see.
purchase the kit, which funny enough, we were chatting about.
Yeah, we
tonight.
were, Sarah, I said, I don't think we're doing another Watercolor Wednesday to my sister before. And she was like, what? People love it. And I was like, okay. I love it too. But I said, I think if we're going to do another one, that we should do a brush lettering. And
I don't disagree with brush lettering, just so you know. I think people will love brush lettering.
I think people will love brush lettering. And then they can merge their two skills for sure.
That will be the event after that.
Yes, maybe we'll do a brush lettering and then a watercolor. Maybe we'll hopscotch around. You guys let us know what you're into. The lettering class is really, really fun. And when the two things merge, that's when you really start to feel like you're hitting it out of the park, for sure. Okay, so let's get to some of these bricks. When you're looking at the photo, like that would come on your card kit, or we can put up the Biscuiteers photo, and you're looking at all of the bricks, you know, it really does look slightly painstaking to draw all of those in, but we're going to get them done in no time. In fact, you can see just along the edges of the photo that wash that has gone all along the background. So you can see it here, that wash of color. And then I've just started laying in some bricks. But before you bring it to your actual piece, if you've got just a piece of watercolor paper, I've got one here, but it's white on white, so it's hard to see. Let me just get something that you can. Oh yeah. So at least you can see. I'm using the smallest square, like a smallest flat brush, or you can use one of your pointed or one of your rounded brushes. It all depends on where you're getting the most success. And so let's try a few off of our actual painting first, just to see which format we like most. I'm going to put this on I'll put this on this instead. So the first thing we need to do is mix our colors. And bricks are not just brown, even though when you think brick, maybe you think red or brown. Let's get in our palette a few variations of the bricks. And you can see in hers, she's got some red, she's got some gray, some more yellowy tones, some lighter brown. So let's just in a few of our little palette compartments, and it doesn't matter which palette you have. Let's take a bit of red, a bit of green, a bit of yellow. I'm just going to kind of get my my watercolor palette ignited here with a little spray bottle, a little mister, just bring some water to it. And I'm going to take a little bit of green. And we don't necessarily want green bricks. However, if I add also a little bit of that mustardy yellow, we kind of start to get a bit more brown going on, like that kind of, you know, tan brown, and add lots of water to it so it's nice and loose. And if it needs to be darkened up, let's add a little more green. And if it's looking a little too green, a little too muddy, then let's just add a little bit of orange. See where we get. And then look at that rich brown just sort of start to take shape there. And if it's feeling, when you get it to your page, like a little too dark, you can add a little bit more water, or maybe it's looking just right. Now, I just drew that rectangle with my large round brush here. So that's one option. Let's take my flat brush. I'll take the same color paint so that I'm really comparing apples to apples, and just slide it across. That might be easier if you feel like, oh, it doesn't seem that straight. Just sliding it across. And you can see just by doing it a second time without going back to the palette, you're getting a whole different color of brick. Yes, Lois, you're right. I just said a few minutes ago, I thought this wasn't happening during March break. It's true. And I kind of forgot that I said that I wouldn't do it during March break, because when I was making the schedule, I thought I'd be on some sort of great vacation, but that clearly didn't happen. So here we are. I sent out the email before I remembered that it was on the schedule. So here we are. I'm glad you could tune in. So just by going a second time with that same brush stroke, you're able to get a completely different, lighter looking brick. So you could go 2 side by side and then maybe switch over to the gray or the yellow. Let's also try it with the smallest round brush, same paint color. And if you like drawing it in more, takes a little longer, but you do have the ability to make it a little bit smaller then, or a little bit skinnier. So you decide which one you like the most. My round brush is getting like a wee tiny little hair on the very edge. So I'm just going to take the scissors and ever so gently give it a little bit of a just that end off. Try it again. So you decide which method you like the most for drawing in your bricks. I'm going to try doing the small rounded brush just for now. But I do think it's probably important, however you start, that's how you should finish. And I did start with the flat brush, but that was because there was a hair on the end of my rounded brush. So I'm just going to keep going like this for right now. And I'm going to try to do a few bricks and evenly space them out. Excuse me. And add a little bit of extra depth just to some of the edges before I change colors.
Do you find that watercolor dries a bit lighter, or like as a rule, like it might feel dark, but then when it dries,
always dries lighter.
Yeah.
You know, Astrid really talked about that last week, about doing that base wash. Sorry, I got a cough. And then coming back, just even in the edges with a little extra color, and then just leaving it alone. And so let's work on a few different spots at once so that we can spread while we've got like the different color on our brush, so we're not having to change it every single time, the paint color. And we can go on a couple different lines. Make sure you're spacing them out. Mine was getting a little tight there. And I'm not even really rinsing the brush, but I don't want too much water to be on. So I've got my paper towel right at the side here. I want there to be enough pigment that we can really see it, but not have it take over. And these are all just sort of painstakingly drawn on. And you don't need to have perfect rectangles. They don't have to be symmetrical. They don't have to be perfect at all. You just need to fill the space. And that's it. And it's going to look like bricks.
Maybe stagger them, because bricks are usually staggered.
Yes, definitely staggered. And by staggered, it's like, see how we've got 1, 2, and then there's one on top that's in the middle. But I wouldn't sweat what shape each brick ends up being, and if one is a little darker or lighter than the one beside it.
I think that's what's nice about watercolor too, is that it allows your eyes to just like flow over it gently without being too caught on a pattern, because everything is a little bit disrupted. Nothing looks perfect in the good way, in the right way. Yep, 1 sec. Jen's batteries just died.
No.
Yeah. How consistently perfect they all look. It's watercolor, it's forgiving.
Exactly. Did you guys hear like a big loud screechy noise, or did I just go dead? All right. And we're just gonna lower the volume there so you guys don't get an echo.
And yeah, Kathy's totally right. Adding those different colors makes the wall look more weathered and old-fashioned. And it's true, like it wouldn't look perfect. All these bricks would be chipped away at by this point in time. So I think it's the right thing to not have perfect lines on.
Absolutely, absolutely. That screeching noise, just so you all know, that happens when my mic pack dies, when the battery dies in my mic. And it did have 2 bars when I started. It quickly went downhill, that little battery tonight. So sorry about that, you guys. All the calm watercolor, and then suddenly, you know. It's looking brickish already. Now, I want to make sure I'm going in a straight line here, because it would be my tendency to arch up. If you've ever written on a chalkboard, maybe you kind of were like writing like whatever work that you were doing, like writing, and then suddenly when you look back at it, it was way up here. So try to find something to stay in line with. So I'm gonna not go up here right now. I'm not gonna go up here. I'm gonna stay going over from that window ledge to try to keep myself in that straight line. And I could even come out from a little half brick behind the window ledge there. And then come in with some gray and just try to keep it as straight as I can going over. I wouldn't say you need to like draw a line or have a ruler or anything like that. It doesn't need to be that perfect. I'm just making a little bit more black. I'm adding a little bit of red and some dark blue. Maybe a little, just darken this up as much as I can. For a bit of a darker black, a bit of a reddish tone here. Sorry, you see me mixing. You know, if you don't love the color, keep adding until it's starting to work a bit more. I wanted that to be a little more gray, so I just added a bit of that more emeraldy green to that reddy tone. But she does have some good red, real red tones in her brick, so I'm going to add a little bit more red to this one, and we can have a few red bricks in there too. Everybody's nice and quiet tonight. Everyone's just watching.
Yeah, everyone's just watching.
Watching intently.
Is anybody doing their watercolor at the same time or just watching? I wonder.
Yeah, let me know if you're painting along with me or if you're waiting and painting later. Stagger.
Charlotte's coloring along. That's nice.
Way to go, Charlotte. Make sure you post and let us see how yours turned out.
I know. I feel like I haven't seen many sample or examples.
Oh, really?
This time around.
Oh, really?
Maybe they just haven't been popping up on my feed.
Yeah. I liked someone this week did their Tour de France building with the green, and she was a little worried.
Oh, I did see that.
Yeah,
one.
she was a little worried about it, but I thought it looked great.
Oh, I liked that green one.
Yeah, it looked great.
Like, we were just looking at photos of Italy the other day. Remember all of the different colored buildings?
Oh,
it
yeah.
wasn't just like that sand tone stucco. There was like vibrantly painted buildings too. So why not go for the pink that you did on that other one, or the green?
Yeah, totally. Once your brick dries, if it's feeling a little washed out, go back over it after it's dried. No problem. No problem at all. You definitely don't want to have like super, super light. You know, you want it to have some depth. So go back over it. No problem.
Oh, Sharon Adams is waiting to paint till the end of June when her sister's coming to visit for a crafting weekend.
Oh, that's going to be so fun. This is why I moved here, where all my sisters are. So every weekend could be craft weekend. You know, I really love it when I go in. Look at the difference when you go in with those different colors. I've got a few more variations over here than I do over here. See, over here is where I first started, and I was kind of a little more nervous and a little more tame. And now I'm like, nope, that looks good. Let's do it.
And could you just add that darker tone onto a couple so it balances it out?
Yes, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just bringing that darker one right over here. Mm-hmm. Let's just darken a few of them up so that we get the benefit of that look everywhere. For sure.
Kathy says I should be painting along with you. I'd love to, except for I've got all these electronics that I'm sitting around.
I know.
Filming, I would by far spill water or something on the equipment.
I know. Sarah's over there by the edit suite where all the cameras are and the buttons, and Karin is switching between the cameras, but Sarah's there as a backup. Obviously, when the battery pack dies, somebody's got to throw me the double A's, you know? It's a tough job.
Important stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. So I'm just going to I'll do a little bit more here, and then we'll kind of move on. You guys let me know if you want to see a little bit more of the building details come to life, or if you want me to move on to the florals. I don't mind either.
I want to see the goodies get painted.
Oh, you want to see some of those little...
Cookies.
Yes. I know, I'm hungry.
I actually thought that was interesting in the video. Obviously, you can do it whatever way you want. But she was sort of doing like a broad stroke across a lot of them at once, as opposed to necessarily one, like each a different color.
Exactly.
I also found that there wasn't as many variations on all of them, the way you would make a little darker point or a little lighter point. There was a lot that were just like straight up
green. And with stuff that's that small, you know, we noticed that in the tour building, for example, when we were doing like the plants and stuff like this, we just washed that out in green. Mm-hmm. We didn't worry too much. Let me just get you we didn't worry too much that each little petal of leaves had their own variation of green. Just put the green down there and let the watercolor kind of do that for you, because that's what it kind of naturally does, is give you that variation. And, you know, we were talking about how everything dries a little bit lighter than it goes on. You know, you really start to notice that as the paint dries. So, you know, go in, darken it up. I wouldn't say, you know, start super pigmented, because you can always add more. And when you get to the edges, it's okay to just kind of stop drawing the bricks and let the watercolor just kind of sit at the side there. We don't have to have like a firm edge on the wall. It's kind of nice that it just, fades. Someone's saying they'll send me one, and then I could finish it. You'll be able to do it. It doesn't take as long as you think. In fact, if you're at home watching TV, let's say this weekend, just get a little clipboard like I've got here and just put this on your lap. You don't even have to be like in wherever you do your crafting or your, that kind of a space. You totally can have this. This is the kind of thing that can be on your lap, especially if you use like the water pen like this that comes in the kit. Then you don't have to have like tons of water with you. You can just use that. Or on the go, like if you're going on a road trip this March break, you could be doing it in the car, especially if you've got like a water pen. My bricks are getting a little straight here, not so staggered, so I got to be careful to get them back in line. That's the only thing I'd say is sort of probably pretty important, is that your bricks are as evenly spaced as you can make them, and that they don't stack up too much, because that's not how real bricks are laid. I'm just going to make sure I go right in the center here. My next one. So I like the control of drawing the rectangle myself versus just using the flat brush. But the flat brush is definitely a little bit quicker, but it's also a little bit thicker. So you be the judge when you start your own. I'm also considering, because I'm loving painting these buildings, I'm considering once the weather is like a little bit nicer, or I guess I could just take a photo of the front of the shop, and I'm going to try to paint the front of the shop. As most of you know, we opened a retail space, and so, it's nothing fancy out there, but hey, you could probably, make it look cute. I'm just trying to spread that paint out a little bit while I've got that darker gray on my brush. Just find a spot that you can put it so that it doesn't go to waste. I don't think I'm going to go any higher here, because then I'm going to lose the wash. I guess I could, but I don't want to lose the wash. Let's do this final one on the edge here.
Yeah, you could do just like a couple at the top.
Yeah, just kind of have it peter out.
Yeah, so it's not as straight of a line, but yeah. Because then it adds to the melting away.
So the other way there is to do bricks, and once we get to the pink building, and maybe I'll show this a little bit next week, but if you're working on these at home, I want you to kind of see it. We'll roll the video so that you can see. We'll first show you the painting of the pink building, and then we'll show you specifically how to do the bricks Well, first let's look at the, sorry, Karin, to be all over the place. Let's look at the pink building, just the photo of it, so that you can just see right away, like what the like when it's an all over color like that, and like as though the brick has been painted. So that's when you're going to use your fine line pen and your white gel pen. Let me show you.
Take my breath away. Take my breath away. Take my breath away. Take my breath away. Through the hourglass I saw you, and time just slipped away. When the mirror crashed, I called you and turned to hear you say, if only for today, I am not afraid. Take my breath away. Take my breath away.
So cute. Okay, let's see the bricks.
This magic moment, so different and so new, was like any other, until I looked at you, and then it happened. Oh, it took me by surprise. I knew that you...
So you saw there, Urban Anna 20, she was using her straight edge or a ruler to make sure everything was going to stay in line. Unlike the freeform bricks here, if you're wanting to do those pink bricks, the ones that kind of indicate that the painting or the building has been painted, the bricks have been painted over, she's using the fine line pen and then that white gel pen over top. And I'll get to a little bit of doing that for you next week, but we won't spend too much longer on the bricks because, you know, it's a little like literally paint dry, watching bricks dry. But you're getting the general idea here. Mix up your colors, and then the rest, you know, you're gonna do what we've been doing, and you know, get some great colors, and you know, get in there on some of those cool little tiny details and start filling them in, because this is when things really start to come to life and you really start feeling like, wow, okay, I'm loving painting these buildings. Because once you get a little, you know, color in there, and some of it's so small, it's hard to even, you know, see it on camera, but up close, it's just gorgeous. And, you know, start with something really inspirational, like, you know, on hers, she's got the awning in black and white, but if you want to do it in red and white, why not? You know, you could put a little red in there and really get some color going across across your painting. I really loved that someone did the Tour de France one in green, because it was a little different than what we had seen already. And, you know, that's art for you. It's making it different. So, all right, I'll set this aside, even though I am kind of dying to keep going here with all these little tiny colorful bits. But we'll get the color going too when we'll in some of our florals. So you got florals in your kit. We got lots of them actually printed out for us. We did some backgrounds. We did this kind of blending with these florals. We did backgrounds like this. And then, you know, you can be doing your own florals too. And if you want to practice here a little bit, it's only going to help you so much. This is really great practice when it comes to blending. So if you're tuning in for the first time tonight, and you're wondering, oh, how did she do that? You should really watch class 1, because that was all about blending and getting those that great movement with the water. Um, Tonight we're going to jump ahead now to doing our own florals. And this is much more like just coloring in the lines and learning that the water, that the paint can do a lot of the blending for you, as long as you don't muck around with it too much. Astrid was really, she made a lot of really great points about, once you put your paint down on your page, leave it alone. Do your sort of wash, whatever color your wash is going to be when you're coloring something in with watercolor paint, and then leave it dry, and then come back to it if you want to do a deeper color. So there's that technique as well. So there's letting the water carry it, then there's letting it dry. Like if we were to let this leaf dry, it'll only take a minute because this is cold pressed watercolor paper. And then if I go with a little bit more saturation, just in, the base or wherever, that's how I'm going to get that like gradient of color, and then let it dry. We don't need to over paint it. So practice your shading and all of that on some of these printouts. And again, you'll be able to cut these out. You can put them on a card front. Remember, in lesson 1, we learned about preserving the highlight. Here we've preserved the highlight. Here we've preserved the highlight, which means the fattest, thickest part of whatever your image, the one that would be closest to the sun, like here, the edges of the petals, they should be lighter. And so go back to class 1 if you're wanting to learn a little bit more about preserving the highlight. Because for now, we're going to start practicing using the shape of our brush to create the image that we want to make. So if I'm doing, let me just get an image, something like this, let's say, just a peony or a rose. This is just a very rough practice, but you'll see in the middle, there's white space. I haven't just filled it all in the way we have in some of the images that we've drawn. The white space when you're watercoloring freehand is extremely important. Now, it doesn't have to be white paper space. It could be just light highlight that's been preserved. But when you're painting florals like this, maintaining that white space is really important. So on a piece of your paper, I would suggest either the back of something that's like, let's say you've got a bunch of these, like this one, but you're not going to do anything with this. It's just practice. Flip it over, because this side of the page is also good. And you could be practicing some of your petals and leaves and stuff on that side of the page. Okay, so we're starting with a wet brush. And remember, there's rarely an occasion where you're taking right from your palette and bringing it to your paper. You want to put it down on a secondary palette first. Get a little more water in there, because this is what's going to help keep the paint moving. You want it to, move but be opaque. That's going to help you get a good impression on your page. So I'm using my largest round brush here, and I'm holding it like a pencil, but not way down at the tip. I'm holding it like a pencil, but up a little bit further on a 45-degree angle. And I'm going to practice pushing down and making my brush go as thick as it can, and then coming back up to a point. So we have a bit of saturation there. That's fine. Maybe we'll just put a little bit more water, a little bit more paint, so that it can carry us the full way. And I can be a little more even, down, up. And just by pushing like this on your brush, you're sort of getting that natural leaf shape. So if you kind of came down here with like another, you'd have like a bit of a vine right away. And it's really all about that pressure on your brush. So we're not coloring anything in here at all. We're letting the brush do that work for us and using it to its maximum thickest capability and its thinnest capability. And so this week when you're practicing, try using your brush in all its form. And if you don't go back to your paint every single time, this is how you kind of get that variation. And then go back and maybe you've got a smaller one that has more paint on your brush. And you can kind of fill it in a little bit. A lot of watercolor florals, like in some of the ones that you see, like the big wreaths and things like that. Well, these are some skinnier ones, but they're all about filling in the gaps. It's not about drawing a perfect leaf. It's more about the impression that the green paint makes as opposed to there being a perfectly shaped leaf. All right, I'm gonna rinse off my brush and do the same kind of thing. This time I'm gonna use my medium, it's a more medium size, rounded brush. And I'm gonna take some more pink. Again, I'm not taking it right from my palette, but putting it down in my secondary palette first and just mixing until I get a kind of a cool color. This looks kind of corally and not too red, but not too pink. And let's just see what it looks like when I lay it down. Nice. So similar shape, but we don't really need that, reddy pink shape to be a leaf necessarily. So instead, with some water on your brush, use the tip, and I want you to just do little letter C, like a little letter C, and then a backwards letter C, and they kind of intersect. And maybe we can zoom in as much as we possibly can here. Karin, do you think we can get closer on the overhead? A little letter C, another letter C, and see how I'm maintaining that white space. If I were to just go like C, 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 you just end up with a circle or a blob. But let this dry a little bit, these letter C's all around, and then you can kind of make them a little bit bigger and then a little bit bigger side of your brush. But again, they're just all little letter C's, and they've got different variations of paint. And presto, it looks like a rose, right?
It does.
Oh my gosh, it does.
It
Looks like a rose. It's amazing. So just try that a couple times, just those little letter C's, and then just make them a little bit bigger. And really exercise stopping. Stopping is really the key. We heard Astrid say it too. Like she even said it to me, "Oh, Jen, that's enough." Because you want to keep doing because it's starting to look good, but don't overdo it. And, try to stick with the same paint colors, like your secondary palette. Add a little bit more water, on some of them so that you get the same color, but a little bit lighter. Yes, definitely dig out your watercolors. We don't have any kits left. I'm sorry. Any of you that have been in our events know the kits sell out. They really do. We try to make as many available as possible, but they always sell out, and people then watch the classes and wish they bought the kit, and it's gone. But we do have little bits and pieces of the kit still available. So we'll throw a link up if you want to shop for some watercolor supplies. We have some stuff left, like some paper pads. We have like some paints and brushes and things like that, but not the full kit. So once you've got your rose down, let it dry a little anyway, because you don't want your stems bleeding into the actual petals too much. And again, just let your brush the natural shape of that brush be what helps you form those leaves in the stem. See what I mean?
Jen, when you're making your flowers, are you literally just thinking C, 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 C? Or are you thinking about how to make it look like a flower?
I think at first I'm thinking C.
Okay.
And then I'm seeing the rose develop, and then I'm putting on the brakes. I'm not copying. I'm not looking at a rose and going, okay, let's paint it the way you might with acrylics or you might with a sketching pencil. That's really not how watercolor works, because it's it's much more like abstract. It's much more, even though, you know, you might think, oh, it does look like a rose. It doesn't look like a real life rose the way like a photograph would or a painting would. You know what I mean? So I would try, especially when you're first starting, to use your brush and the shape that the brush naturally makes, and use that as a jumping off point. You know what I mean? Use that as your jumping off point. And it'll be different for many of you who've painted with acrylics before, because you'll be used to painting and painting over top of it and painting over top of it. The only time you'll do that with watercolor is here. So you can see this bottom rose, now that it's kind of dried, is looking very light. So we could go back in there again with a darker tone, a little more red, let's say. And we could do our C again, right in the middle, and kind of go over it. Make sure you got enough water. If you're seeing the paper, and you could go over it with your C's again. Maintain some of that white space. Don't just fill it all in, and let it dry, and know when to stop. But you don't have to go over anything either. You could just do like one stroke over for a little extra dimension.
Yeah, it's true, because that one that you just put the paint on there was kind of very similar in color, because you still had the same amount of water on it.
Yeah.
So that does add a little bit of
Yeah,
shape.
exactly. The other thing with doing freehand florals is to kind of, you know, not necessarily draw extras, but it's a lot of filler. And so let me just pull something to kind of show you some filler. So if we're pulling something like this, for example, which isn't a rose, but more of like a violet-y shape, we want to make sure that, okay, obviously this is our main image, you know, but we need to fill some of this space. So like the berries work, extra leaves, some of these little dandelion type, you know, so you can, if you were looking at a real bouquet of flowers, you could take a look at what the florist has done in terms of adding like some baby's breath. You know what I mean? Like, because you need filler too in your bouquet. So let's try another little piece. And this time I'm going to do it, and I'm going to start with a flower, and then we're going to add some filler. So this time I could use my big flat brush, and let's do something blue like that floor. Although I really don't like using a flat brush for florals, so I'm going to still use my round brush. I was going to try, but why?
Does it just not have the same movement?
It just doesn't have. I'll show you on my scrap. So if I'm doing like that violet-y type flower, you can kind of come up and then back down, or even just square it off, you know, if you wanted. With well, actually, it does look pretty good. You know what? This is a real ad for try it out. If you're doing a flower that's more angular, then yeah, hey, flat brush. Why not?
So either really is fine.
It's fine. Like I went to grab the flat brush, but I do love the round brush the most. But let's use the flat brush. It works pretty well. So I'm getting that blue in here. If you want it to look a little more purple, Add a bit of red to it. But that blue, I like the blue. And try to remember when you're doing petals and leaves that things look best in odd numbers. So, and I'm just kind of getting this down here. And so if you can have room for 5, that would be best. And I'm kind of just drawing like a bit of a triangle here with this flat brush. Preserving a bit of that white space. And then getting a bit more water, a bit more pigment. And then let's just go in and really darken up the center. And sometimes flowers have like really black centers and like the stamens are kind of pointy, you know? So you can go in just like I am here with like the tip. And this is where you can use a lot more pigment, is when you need to. And now I need to let this dry a little bit because it's wet on wet here. So let's let it dry, just even in the middle there. This one's like pretty light, but I'll let the whole thing dry. And while it is, I'll start working on a little bit of filler. So if I bring my round brush back over and think about some greens again. I don't want it to be too brown. If it's looking a little brown or too brown, just add some, mix it until you like it. And let's just add a few, like, let's start with like a long kind of stem and then figure out how we'd like the leaves to kind of spring from it. And what way is our picture going to stand? Originally, I thought it was going to stand this way. Then I kind of went this way, but I guess it should kind of come up here.
It kind of seems to depend on where your dark pieces land.
It's true. It's so true.
Yeah.
See, I'm just pushing it down and then pulling it up. Pushing it down, pulling it up. And I don't really know if a flower in nature has a little viney spine like this and has all of these leaves, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, really what matters is A, that you're having fun doing it, and that, you know, it pretty much looks like what you're meaning for it to look like, which is a floral. And we could come up here and do a second and have a nice kind of spiny, florally leaf, follow it all the way up.
Watercolor painting's like a real exercise in just letting go of your expectations of what it's about to look like.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if you have a vision of exactly how you want it to look, it's probably unlikely unless you're really good at becoming that. You know?
For sure.
Just be fluid about the way you want it to flow. And
Let's get a little bit of red in here.
Us type A's need to maybe practice watercolor more.
For sure. So we got red. We'll put a few little berries down in here somewhere because remember, we're talking about filling some of the space. So let's remember, maintain some white space. Not everything has to be totally colored in. And try to balance things out. If you're painting down here, balance it down up here. And notice how I only did 3, an odd number. And, you know, we can balance it over here too, or over here, somewhere that, sorry, I'm so coughy today. I'm not like sick. I just have like this dry, it's dry. I think that's what it is. And don't worry that these are floating in mid-air at this point. We're gonna, once they dry, get some more connectors, some more filler.
I'd like to know if people feel intimidated by going the freehand versus the coloring in, or if people are feeling brave enough to give it a try.
Those of you that got the kit especially, do you like that the images are there for you to cut in, or would you rather do more of just like this? I'm not going to add the stems to these right yet because I don't want that red to bleed all into the stems. So I'm going to move on to a different filler. I'm going to take a little small brush, go back to some of my, I've got some gray already mixed from the bricks. And different tones of filler really help in allowing your star image to remain the star. We don't need the little baby's breath that, might kind of go here, let's say. It can kind of just be like a light neutral kind of color. It doesn't need to steal the show. We can balance it over on the other side, put a few little, like that's one. And then I might have another one coming down.
This friend says coloring in gives us the chance to learn to shadow and layering colors, and then freehand is good at learning the strokes, so they like both.
Yeah, that's what we were thinking too.
Kathy likes or says that it's like coloring when you're a kid.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you're very new and, somewhat maybe intimidated by something new, sorry, the drawings really can kind of allow you to break down that insecurity, that barrier that might be stopping you from giving it a try,
I think what I like about the drawings is I struggle with it not looking perfect and letting go of what's in my mind, and the drawings gives me a bit of structure while trying to be a little free. Like I'm only so flexible.
There's a better chance it's going to turn out,
and that's how that will, once I feel that successful, then I feel like, okay, I can keep going. All
right, I'm going to go back to my blue since my flower is pretty dry here. I wouldn't recommend balancing your secondary palettes. And so you can kind of see where a lot of water went here. It's like a splot. It doesn't even bother me that much, honestly. But we can fix it up. You can add a little extra. Now, we don't want everything to be the same color. And that's kind of what's happening here, is everything is looking like the same color. So if that happens to you, you can take a little bit off, lighten it up a little. It's very forgiving. The water can, it can come off as easy as it went on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because some of even the original color came up when you did that.
Yeah, totally. You can reactivate it for sure. Or if you want to go in with like another color, like if we want to add like a deeper base, at where the stamen would be, then let's like mix a little purple in here.
How long have you been watercoloring for?
Me?
Yeah.
I'd say maybe 5 years.
Since Ottawa.
Oh yeah, that's true.
You gave me a picture.
That's true. I did make you that picture.
And that was a really good picture. I still have it.
Yeah,
that's up in one of the kids' rooms.
All right. See how I didn't let the blue dry here, and now let's see what's happening with the purple. It's spreading.
Is that good or bad?
Hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. I'm going to let it spread. Or if you don't want it to spread, just go in with your paper towel and you can pick it up a little bit. but I think it looks good. No problem.
So what do you think? Like 20 years?
Yeah.
But you haven't consistently.
Not consistently. You pick
definitely put it
you
down.
pick these things back up. Like same with sewing for lots of people too, right? Like you put it away for a while, then you get back at it. Like someone said, I think I got to dig out my watercolors, because maybe you had them from 20 years ago. They're still good. If they're for sure they are, just put some water on them. They'll be fine. All right. So with these little buds here, we could add a little something, a little kind of berry something to the end of them. Like maybe it's this blue flower about to, like maybe it's not baby's breath. Maybe it's like this blue flower about to bud. So we could go kind of just put a few little dots like they're about to bloom. The other thing we could do is go in with that blue, and again, just little C is make it like its own bud. I got to mix up some more blue. It's getting too muddy. We don't like muddy. Watery, no problem. Muddy,
I feel like muddy is a real thing in all paint.
Yes, it is.
I have an artist friend who does acrylics, and she always says, don't keep going. You're going to get murky purple.
Yeah.
Murky purple. It's
Yeah.
like the death of any painting.
Yeah. And like these little blue ones here that maybe don't need to be quite as dark as what the main one, it could be like this before it really blooms. Do you know what I mean? Like just some buds. All right, let's get back to our green because we do need to have some more greenery in here. And this is what I mean by fill. Like maybe you thought, oh, look, she made a blue flower, but let's just keep filling it in with kind of some different colors, different shapes. We can add maybe the stems to these little berries now. And again, let the brush be the shape. And if you make a line a little bigger than it, whatever, it's fine. That's what I love about watercolor because I'm very much a whatever, it's fine. I do like when things turn out, but it doesn't bother me if they go a different direction. Now, we could go in with a different shade of green and do, another couple leaves coming up. Some bigger leaves, for example. So with your biggest brush.
Is somebody wondering when our next event might be or even what it might be?
Like
any event, I think.
Any event. So we are about to announce our homemade event. Sarah and I were just working on it prior to coming on here. It's the homemade event, and then we also have a meeting tomorrow to announce another bra. We're going to do an underwire bra with Liz. So these are coming. 101. Oh, the quilting? Quilt camp?
No, I don't know if we settled on that, but the regular homemade 101.
Oh yeah, Sewing 101.
Yeah.
So anyone who maybe is watching that is new, last year we launched Sewing 101, and we're going to launch that again. It's going to be the same class, but it's for anyone who wants to basically learn to sew. We'll have Sewing 101 going. We're also going to have Quilting 101 for anyone who hasn't done our quilting retreat.
And then we'll have a quilting retreat, of course.
Yeah, the quilting retreat will be again later in the year, September, I believe.
We're just working on the details of the exact dates, so we don't want to overly commit ourselves yet to the homemade event.
Yeah, so just stay tuned. Mm-hmm. Hopefully you're following us on all the places. Okay, so let's just balance this out a little more. Maybe we need one more kind of coming down.
Do we still have a spot on our website to sign up for emails or anything?
Yes.
So I guess if you're new to following us, we've had a lot of new followers in the last couple months. If you want any emails, get added to our email list. You'll find out about like special sales, events, sales during events, all the different things that we've got going on. So if you wanted to sign up, we can get you on that mailing list in case you don't always come on to your social media platforms or something.
I feel like we maybe in this need some other color of flower, like
Yellowy,
a like a
mustard
yellowy, like that's what I was thinking too, Sarah. So I'm gonna bring that. That looks a little too brown. I need to have a fresh spot for the yellow. All my yellow has got a kind of a brown tinge to it because of the bricks. Sorry about the coughing, you guys. It's so dry in here. I'm gonna drink some water.
Just don't drink that colored water you got on your desk. Got a nice looking raspberry lemonade happening.
I know. I know, exactly. If your palette is getting a little muddy, you can just paper towel it off. Like I had a lot of going on there with the bricks. So
oh my goodness, who was it the other day that said, "Oh, I just throw the palette right out," and you were like, "What? No!"
Oh my God.
Maybe it was during the event. I don't
Yeah.
know. Someone said it recently, and you're like, "No,
don't do it." That's funny. So I'm gonna add just like this C's here, and it's just like another little pop of color. Just a couple. I'm gonna let them dry. And it's not like I've painted in any real thing that looks like a flower, but you just know it is.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
No, for sure.
Yeah.
You use the word impression before, and it's totally right. You just are giving the impression of it, and your eyes just know what you're supposed to be looking at. Like you kind of figure it out. Yeah.
And because we have it on this side, we probably should balance something on this side with that same color. It doesn't have to be as much, can be smaller. Could just be like a little something just somewhere.
So you're doing it twice, but when you're doing it together, you would do it in the odd number.
Yes.
Okay. Just to, because you always said always in odd numbers, but
well, you want to balance it off in your odd numbers. Yeah. And you could change something in to one of these little, yellow flowers. Like, one of these things could be like, these could have some yellow on them. Like, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's more just balancing out those colors. Yeah,
like that doesn't even look really like anything, but
it's just a little pop of color. And, you can go in and darken up your original little C's that you're making, if it's feeling like it needs a little more definition. Look at how much that purple spread up into that leaf, eh?
Yeah, a few people commented that they really liked that.
Yeah.
I like it too.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a violet.
Yeah, for sure. And, we can, where did I mix the purple? Come on.
Other palette, I think, isn't it? No?
And if you want that to keep going, if you like that, put a little water down and then let the water travel on itself. No problem. A little water down. But don't overdo it. As soon as you overdo it, like I'm starting to overdo it here, that's when you're going to get into trouble.
Looks good.
So see how lots of fill happened? Even though you just started off with one, like 5 little triangles that were sort of like blobs, and then just keep building. And, your skills will keep building. And you'll be able to then, do something like where, okay, I'm going to do 2, and then I'm going to use my fine line marker, and I'm going to, join them together. And then that way, if I want to brush letter something in it, a card front or something, hello spring, and you want to frame it and put it at the front door.
Put a gift card holder, like
gift,
little slits
yeah,
to put a gift card
exactly.
in
This
it.
is like just something that, is yours that you made. Same like if you wanted to do like trace a circle, trace it, 3 or 5 times. And typically after you've done your floral, you could do it before if you wanted to, and just fill it in. Feel free to kind of play a little bit. Another good fill piece that I was just thinking of, I just want to make sure we kind of put it in here. We'll just put one, and it can kind of is like sort of a faux like lilac, where you just do these little like dots like this. That's another good fill. See what I mean? It's hard when it's not like super close.
No, you can see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just make sure your dots stay with lots of white space. And then you could kind of maybe put one.
You could almost do like a cattail like that.
Yep, cattail for sure. That's a good fill. Cattails are really, when you have a brown, like pretty easy to do with the shape of your brush. But let it dry before you do the
stem.
The stem.
It looks so easy when you're doing it.
It's pretty easy. You guys will be able to do it. I know people are like, oh, you're good, so that's why you can do it. No, you can do it too. For sure.
So post your freehand ones too, or whatever you'd call this.
Yeah, totally. I just don't want to drag that in until it's time. But yeah, fill. And that's how you'll get good at freehanding. And doing those kinds of florals, and making your own card fronts and printables or framables. That's what I'd suggest, is just give it a go. Hey, it can't hurt, right? Make sure you're using watercolor paper though, if you don't have the kit. It doesn't matter if it's hot pressed or cold pressed. Cold press is usually a little more accessible, a little less expensive. And I find it works great. Perfect student grade paper. It dries a little faster than hot press. It's a little more bumpy. And you want to let watercolor dry, and you don't want it to be so saturated that the paper is sort of warping, but you can expect a little bit of movement on the paper because of the water. So is there any last questions? I've kept you guys way more than an hour. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me here tonight. And I definitely want to see, even if you're just doing your bricks or you're finishing last week's building, I'd love to see what you've painted this week. Be sure and post it in the group or on my page, or tag me on Instagram if you're sharing it. I'm going to get busy and keep at this. And we'll meet back here same time next week for even more creativity. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time, everybody.